Hello, Tim here. Welcome to my channel. Happy Mother's Day to you mothers out there. And for those that have a mother that you'd like to make something for, it might be a little too late to do it today, but there's always next year. And sometimes you're scratching your head wondering, okay, I'd like to make something, but she doesn't need another bowl if you got a lathe or something. My wife has this Norwegian brooch called a Soya, and I've linked down below something that from a PBS presentation talks about these things and what the significance is of them being made in silver, and it's supposed to ward off, bring good luck and so forth. And this is worn on their garment up around the neckline. And this belonged to some great grandmother, came from Norway. And for years I was trying to think, what can I do to make a proper display? And I could make a box and put it in there, but then it's out of sight. Or you put it in a shadow box, you could make something like that. But that's a little bit less interesting to look at, and then set it on a shelf somewhere. This is a rosette that I mounted on. The brooch is on a piece of plywood with fabric, and I'm going to show you the steps I took to get this far. And it's just mounted inside this walnut frame that I turned and then carved the beading. And I'm going to start out first with the inspiration where I got to make this came from a series of turnings that I did for a particular job. I did several hundred of these, and they're rosettes that go on the corner of a door frame. And turning this rosette, I just thought, well, maybe if I made it big enough, then I could maybe make a frame out of it. So I made a mock-up of it. This happened to be pine, and I stained it red. And I was thinking, in my process of trying to come up with an idea, I first thought of, even making a diptych where the doors open and close, or triptych, but then it has to sit on a shelf. This could either stand on a shelf, or my idea is mount this hanging on the wall. And my first ideas of the fabric background happened to be blue linen. I picked this up at a fabric supply place, and I made this, but I wasn't real happy with the color. I thought that might be kind of interesting. And then I did a little test bead, and then I did some gold leaf and gold paint. But it seemed to really not complement the detail, and it seemed to take the focus off of the brooch itself. So I started out with this kind of a thing, and then I went to a couple of pieces of walnut, and this is repurposed from a tabletop. And I started to work on this one and did a little carving on the bead. But I had a mishap here where this started to crack, and I filled it, and ended up just kind of ditching that idea and made a couple of these out of cherry. Now, the step-by-step on this cherry piece is I turned it on the lathe first, and all the turning is done on one face. Now you'll see on the back side of this one, it's rabbited out, and I did that with a router as opposed to mounting it back on the lathe, turning it around and mounting it on the lathe. It's a little bit hazardous. You could do that in production and make a special jig and all that stuff. But in this case, I did the molding around here, made sure that this was the right width for my carving tool, but this part of it here was just drilled out. This ragged edge here then will I'll use a router to make it look like that. That's what I did with all these. I punched that middle part out. So let me just show you how I did some of the carvings on the beadwork. So we're going to finish up what I've started here. When you're doing the turning, and the turning would look like, I'm going to show this walnut piece here. So the bead's like this. So this is about a 1/4 inch, and that's what my gouge is, about a 1/4, a little over. This is a number 9, it's probably metric, so it's a 7 millimeter. Let me show you how I started. Very light pressure. If you go too hard on this, you can pop that bead that you're carving out. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not sure how this is going to time out exactly, but I might have to do a little bit of adjustment in the bead size. And if you were to measure each one of these beads, it'd probably be a plus or minus, but that's the beauty of hand carving. So it looks like I probably get 2 more in here. Can I? No, not quite. So I'm going to cheat this back a little bit and cheat this one back. Make a little bit of adjustment here so I can create enough room for 2 more beads. Yeah, it's going to be a little small. Move that one back. All right, well, we'll live with it. Now I come along with the skew chisel and come alongside, make a relief cut. Now, working with cherry, I've got to stop periodically and resharpen the tools because cherry tends to make them dull. This is a number 3, about a 3/16 number 3 gouge. I'm just defining the top part here. Now this is a number 5. So this is just a matter of cleaning up along the side. And I'm going to go all the way around, clean up the other beads. Then I use a really fine grit, like 600 grit, sandpaper to kind of take some of the, kind of burnish it a little bit. I don't want to take detail out, but I'll clean up, I'll come back and clean all this up later. So all the tools that I used, number 3, and a skew chisel, number 9, and number 5, and occasionally, depending on what this is a fishtail, number 4, and I would use that one for some of this, depending, kind of for cleaning, rounding over the top, smoothing out the facets a little bit. And that's it. So this is my final version in walnut. And the difference between the walnut one and the cherry is that the cherry is 1 inch. This is 1 1/8, just a little bit thicker. With the small disc out of 1/4 inch plywood. So I use this brown velour, which I think sets it off a lot better. But the same idea as if you needed something like that, glue your fabric on here first. It's easier to do it square, I think, and then cut your circle out of that. And then I use some very small as I could find, some very small little eye screws, and that's what this pin is in, those eye screws, so it can be taken off and worn again. It's not mounted on there permanently. But let's say you didn't want to do that. You could make this thing as a frame and put a round piece of plexiglass in there and make a picture frame out of it. Or you could put some other piece of jewelry in here, like a different kind of brooch or even a necklace. You drill holes and run it through there and have it hang there. It's just a way to display jewelry that maybe is a heirloom piece or something you're not really inclined to wear. It's not convenient to take off to wear, but you still like to see it and see it displayed. When I was all done with the bead work, and I buffed it lightly with some steel wool, 4/0 steel wool, and then I used shellac and oil. It's a French polish on here. Needs a little more work on that, but it's pretty good. And then once this is mounted in here, I'll put nails in there like you'd frame a picture. Make sure, and then I'd have make sure this is straight. And then I'd put a little sawtooth kind of thing to hang it on the wall. Or you could cut in a little mortise in there to hang it on a pin or something like that. But that's, when I'm all done with it, that's going to be finished up that way. So this is one thing I'm really happy with as far as a project that kind of evolved from several different ideas over time, and it's about time I got this thing done, because it's been many years that this has been just in a box and hiding, and we kind of like to have it out on display. And that's my Mother's Day idea for you, and hope you have good success for those of you that want to give this a try. I will be linking the drawing that I did to make this up if you want to make your own, and you can see what I did with that. So it's a working drawing. It's not a pictorial, but it just gives some dimensions. This happens to be 9 inches square, and you're welcome to download that if you'd like. So again, happy Mother's Day, and thank you for watching, and please give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.